Good morning and welcome to today's Five with Fitz. I'm, of course, Keith Fitz-Gerald. Thanks, as always, for joining me. Here we go again. Tuesday gave investors plenty to smile about, and the follow through looks set to continue this morning as I type, or, well, as I record this anyway, as all three of the major indices are in the green. Now, obviously, and to be fair, you don't count your chickens before they hatch any more than you count your profits before you capture them. But still, I'll take it, and I hope you will too. There's still plenty of fuel in the tank, and I get this question all the time on all the various media shows that I do. Can the rally continue? Well, I think there's four reasons it can. Number one, the Fed hasn't started cutting yet, but probably will one of these days whenever Jay Powell and his band of money marauders get around to it. Number two, big money managers are still underexposed and fretting about valuations, which tells me they're behind the eight ball. Three, it's FOMO season, fear of missing out, so all of those folks still have to buy. And yes, there are still trillions of dollars with a T sitting on the sidelines, all of which is looking for a home. Now, contrary to what people think, this isn't rocket science. Most folks are going to chase yesterday's hot stocks, but that is almost always a mistake. What you really want to do at moments like the present, and especially right now, is A, position for tomorrow's inevitabilities, and B, get your money there first. Here's my playbook. Number one, Ford's game of catch-up is already out of gas. Now, as you probably know, I am an unabashed Tesla bull and have been for years, so it makes sense that the super savvy Jerry Willis asked me about this yesterday. If Ford's latest EV ambitions worry me vis-a-vis Tesla. Not even remotely, I said. And you can watch that interview elsewhere on the channel. But here's why. Bottom line is Tesla has the Model 3, the Y, the S, the X, the Cybertruck, and the Semi, and that's not even including robots, data, and more to link them all together. Ford's strategy is simply catch up, and their lineup remains very limited. Tesla could make 10x per vehicle what Ford makes in 10 vehicles for the next 10 years thanks to the vertical integration. Ford, on the other hand, is losing billions on EVs, which will make scaling financially very, very challenging. Tesla has the supercharger network, over-the-air updating, which Ford can't match, and tremendous brand loyalty, despite what the media would have you believe. Tesla has got the world's biggest real-time driving base, giving massive AI advantage, autonomy, and efficiency lead, while Ford literally has no comparable data set. Tesla controls all its own IP, while Ford cobbles together partners. Tesla is all in, Ford is balancing legacy businesses. So, here's a financial tip in this department. The financial graveyard is filled with investors in companies they own to the bitter end who fail to understand where the world is going and who remain trapped by baggage from the past. Don't be one of them. By the way, if you're interested in the entire interview, including my take on why the markets can continue to rally, Palantir to 200, and which defense stocks make the most sense ahead of Putin and Trump's Alaska confab, then watch that elsewhere on the channel too. I hope you enjoy it. Number two, is this the ultimate antitrust move? Now, this bit of news caught my attention yesterday. Perplexity's made apparently an unsolicited $34.5 billion offer for Google's Chrome browser, and it lit up the headlines. On paper, this is pretty funny actually, it's hilarious. The company is valued at $18 billion itself, which raises a teensy tiny little question. Like, how exactly do you finance a deal nearly twice your own market cap? Well, it is possible. It's not outrageous, but it is possible. The numbers alone are eye-raising, right? Eyebrow-raising anyway. Chrome commands roughly 65% of the global browser market, 3.5 billion plus users worldwide. Now, analysts, of course, say it would likely take north of 100 billion for Google to even come to the table, which, just for the record, I doubt, but for the sake of argument, we'll play along with. That means Perplexity's business bid isn't just low, it's laughably low if advertising and search are really worth what people think. Now, here's where I come down on this. I'm not sure that's true like it once was, and that is exactly the point, my friends. I think Perplexity's bid ought to be half again as small, just $15 billion, and that Google would be really foolish not to take it immediately. I don't believe Perplexity intends to buy Chrome at $34.5 billion. It's a stalking horse. What they're doing is far more strategic, right? Google's defense in part of the Department of Justice, includes arguing that Chrome can't survive outside Alphabet, and it's pointing to Firefox's slow fade, Opera's struggles, and the graveyard of failed standalone browsers. But Perplexity just blew that up in a single move by making a publicly announced funded offer, even one that they may not be able to close. They've handed the DOJ a gift-wrapped counter-argument that Chrome could survive outside Google because there's actual buyer interest. I mean, think about that for a second. It forces the court to rethink Google's sob story about Chrome's fragility. And if there's a willing, credible buyer, the argument that Google would wither on its own loses steam fast. That's why I'm calling this the ultimate anti-antitrust move. If the court forces Google to divest Chrome, Google's search moat shrinks, its data fire hose narrows, and the company loses its default gateway to the internet for billions of users. Perplexity, on the other hand, wins either way. If they somehow get Chrome, it's a rocket booster for the AI-driven search ambitions. And even if they don't, Chrome ends up in someone else's hands, Google is weakened, and Perplexity still benefits from the shakeup. Now, here's the thing to think about. Tech disruption isn't always about the deal you close. Sometimes it's about the one you make public just to move the chessboard. Unfortunately, Perplexity is still private, doggone it, but Google is public, and I submit at this point, increasingly like a moth in search of one of those alluring blue porch lights on a hot summer night. You know what happens when they find one. Mm-hmm. Anyway, number 3 today, most aspiring AI investors haven't got a clue that this game is on. Tencent just reminded the markets what happens when a company thinks ahead and moves quickly. The Chinese tech giant's earnings were strong, but what really caught my attention and what I want to bring to yours is that the spending surged 119% year over year as it poured billions into AI upgrades for advertising, gaming, and its Weixin super app. Now, I hope I pronounced that correctly. You've heard me mention super apps before. I expect super apps to dominate global data within a decade. All right, now, you may, like many people, not think this is a big deal. Think again. Americans and Europeans tend to pick phones by prioritizing brands, price deals, and app ecosystems. In China, consumers pick phones based on super app compatibility, speed, and deep local ecosystem integration, as well as national pride. Case in point, both Tencent's WeChat and Alibaba's Alipay services are deeply embedded in everyday living, making calls, picking up your laundry, paying for things, etc. So how well a phone runs them is critical. Further, China-specific read-only memory, ROMs, meaning custom Android builds, typically removes Google services and replaces them with domestic alternatives. Now, not many people know this, but China already controls about 14.5% of the world's AI computing power, and that is a critical resource in the race to train and deploy the most advanced models. Think about it. There is no doubt in my mind that there's only one Western CEO, on a related note, who gets the threat and the opportunity at the same time. And that's, of course, Uncle Elon Musk, who I have repeatedly suggested for years is undoubtedly working on a super app of his own and is hiding in plain sight. You don't really seriously think Twitter, now X, and Grok isn't headed that direction? I mean, really? Do you? I don't. All right, number 4. This one is just sentimental, but the sound of the 90s is finally going silent. AOL has announced that it'll pull the plug on its dial-up internet service on September 30th, ending a 30-year run of screeching modems, you got mail, and watching web pages load 1 pixel at a time. Wow, boy do I feel old. But anyway, that's beside the point. Use what's happening as a reminder to dump fading legacy plays and keep capital in innovators that are riding the next wave. Think AI infrastructure, quantum computing, networking, edge computing. I mean, just to name a few of these things off the top of my head. That is exactly where tomorrow's AOLs are being born. Your portfolio will thank me. Of course, it'll thank you too, but, that's beside the point. Anyway, Keith's investing tip. Tech moves on, and so should your portfolio. The stuff you loved isn't always the stuff you should own. Google and Amazon come to mind, for example, but that's just me. Number 5 today. Every chip tells a story, and now it's reporting to Washington. Reuters is reporting today that U.S. spooks are hiding or sliding hidden location trackers into NVIDIA, AMD, and other super high-end chips to ensure they don't accidentally fall into China's hands. Like that's a surprise. Not. AI is for all the marbles, something we've talked about a lot, which is why if you own the choke points, i.e. the chips themselves, you own the vault, so to speak. You know what to do and which companies to buy, and if not, perhaps you'd find one bar ahead helpful. I'll be here if you need me. Today's bottom line, pessimists have a hard time making money. So be an optimist. Life is a lot more pleasant. Profits become a lot more consistent. As always, let's make it a great day. You got this, I promise. Thank you for joining me, and I will see you tomorrow.